Hey everybody, it's Gerke from Factor This. We're getting ready for DistribuTech coming up at the end of March. And to talk a little bit about one of the key utilities participating this year, we're joined by two guests from Duke Energy, Tom Artau and Jason Handley. These guys know DistribuTech like the back of their hands. Tom and Jason, you guys have been doing this for quite a while. Tom, let's start with you. Tell me a little bit about your experience with the event and how it's helped you be better at your job.
Well, I've been attending DistribuTech probably going back to 2007 timeframe. So quite a number of years in attending the conference. And then I've been involved on the advisory committee. I think I'm in my seventh year on the advisory or planning committee. And, I've benefited greatly by being involved with DistribuTech it really helps keep in tune with things that are happening in the industry, especially in my area, which is in load management or demand response.
And Jason, what about yourself?
Yeah, so sort of similar to Tom. I started actually going to, if I remember correctly, it was right around 2000. I believe it's still called DADSM back then, before it actually switched names to DistribuTech. But I've been on the committee since a little over 10 years now and have really enjoyed my time. Number one, it is great people. Not only the committee folks are really good folks to work with, but the week of DistribuTech is always great because there's so much wonderful content, vendors that you can get to, and really have one-stop shopping for really figuring out what you want to do for if you haven't got plans for the year, if you want to see new technologies, if you want to understand lessons learned from what your other fellow utility folks are doing, because you can get both the co-op and municipality view as well as the IOU view. And so for me, I just find it as a great week for us to go out and learn and really get more in depth, find those relationships, find people that are doing the similar things that we either are going to be doing or that we've done, and make those relationships and see if we can actually find out, hey, do we have similar paths in the future to where, we can share items and ideas.
We talk so much about how collaboration is going to be essential for all of us in this age of unprecedented load growth. And I know, Jason, you have a few really unique perspectives. I'd like to keep it here with you. You're speaking quite a bit at DistribuTech. I'm really interested in all of the sort of flexible grid edge stuff, the strategies that you guys at Duke are implementing, particularly in the Carolinas right now, to make our grid more flexible in light of more frequent and severe weather events. Could you talk a little bit about how that's going and what you plan on speaking about in that session?
Sure. Well, there's a tremendous amount that Duke's doing, and again, I'm not the expert on all of it. We have 28,000 employees that really work every day to make our system more reliable, more resilient for our customers, as well as more affordable. So some of the things that we're doing is self-healing teams. So when you're in the distribution system, you're going out and you're installing very, very smart reclosing devices, in our cases, where we can isolate outages when they happen. We're doing optimized volt var control throughout our system to ensure that we have good voltage going to the customers. And even we got a tremendous amount of great programs for behind the meter, whether it be our thermostat program, our water heater programs, so really looking at trying to make, the energy that our customers use, make it easier on them to find programs and interact with us. So Duke is growing and evolving and is trying to become really, really customer-centered in our approach. And I think that what you're going to see is a lot of these programs are going to mature as the grid is continuing to mature, and Duke's going to just roll right along with it.
Jason, you mentioned this a little. You touched on it about how Duke is such a big operation. It's not like you're just a utility that's focused on one state. Tom, I know you're based in Florida and working for Duke as well. Can you tell me a little bit about the emerging technology that you've had your hands on and some of the smart grid stuff that you're working on?
So my main focus is in demand response, and we are testing new devices and various wireless technologies. We've tried, we've got a legacy system, rather old but reliable paging network that we still own and operate, large infrastructure there. But over the course of the last decade or so, we've began to transition to load control devices that are using Wi-Fi or cellular. and various modes of cellular. Lately, it's been 4G, and we're transitioning our switches over time. We're transitioning to cellular devices, although it takes time because we have hundreds of thousands of load control switches located inside customer homes. So we have to make appointments and get in there and change those out. We're also experimenting with some other aspects, such as grid connected water heaters or smart water heaters that customers already own, that are Wi-Fi connected, and they can enroll in our program just by using their manufacturer's app for their respective water heater, and it helps us to implement our programs without necessarily rolling a truck. So we're experimenting there too.
Tom, I know you've worked a little bit with renewables as well and helped bring some new solar online in Florida. How does that complicate the demand response thing, having to integrate renewable resources into our grid, which we talk about all the time is a bunch of old poles and wires that weren't really meant to be a two-way system?
Well, solar is definitely introducing new challenges to the electric grid, the bulk electric system. It benefits us by coming online and with really little manipulation, right? As soon as the sun comes up, the solar starts producing. However, that the renewable, solar in particular, does create variability in our generation fleet. And so it becomes a bit of a challenge for operators to be able to respond to not only sudden cloud cover where you lose some generation, but they also have to be prepared to accept the additional generation as the sun is rising and clouds clear. So it has definitely changed the way our generation fleet is utilized, and the operators have to be prepared to respond accordingly as the renewables vary in production.
Jason, bouncing back to you, one way to sort of deal with those intermittent resources is via microgrids. And I know that Duke Energy's been involved in that Hot Springs microgrid project. Would you care to share some of the strategies that you've used to make that a success, and some of the things that you guys are keeping an eye on in the future?
Sure, Paul, I'll be happy to. And as Tom was just saying, I mean, renewables are a huge part of our future generation plan as we continue to work towards a net zero energy future. Renewables are going to be a big part of that. So with that, microgrids are a way to do that at a little more local level, a town level, community level. And what we're really aiming to do is to provide more resiliency and reliability into certain areas that may have what I'm going to call either degraded or may have just some pockets of non-high reliability. So they may be experiencing a little bit lower reliability. So we look for areas that we can introduce solar plus storage microgrids. So right now, our microgrids are non-generator based, so they're just solar and microgrids. And we have 4 of them active now. We have 4 of them under construction now, and we're going to continue doing this. Our pipeline is continuing to grow because we find better and better uses for them. Hot Springs was a great example for us. During Helene last year, the town actually was flooded. The substation that feeds the town was flooded and completely wiped away. The only thing really left was the substation transformer. Everything else was either gone or knocked off its footings. So we luckily had the microgrid in place and was able to service the town for 7 days while the temporary mobile substation was put in place. So having that ability to have solar generation plus the battery backup so you can serve at night was a real help for our customers. And I think that you're going to see us start looking for more and more areas for that, because we understand that an outage in a rural area is not necessarily the same as an outage in an urban area. You may have only one grocery store, one gas station, one Walgreens in a rural area. So keeping the power on there is very, very important. And it means not more, but it means that it's different from in a rural than an urban setting.
Jason, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I think I kind of know where your answer will lead based on your distribution background. But when you look at the grid right now and the challenges we're facing, what does the grid of the future look like to you? What is an important, integral that we focus on right now in this time of transition?
I think one of the most important things that we can focus on is coordination. When I say that, it's because, yes, we are moving towards a more distributed, less centralized grid, but it's all got to work together. We're still, I mean, with our growth rate, looking what we're going to be adding with new data centers, just standard economic development, and just regular load growth. We have a lot of customers moving to our territory right now. We're going to need base load generation. We're not getting away from that centralized, but we've got to augment that with this distributed. So the most important thing we can do is ensure that those two aspects work together seamlessly. We're working on a big project called Modernize, and it's a play on word because inside the word DER is capitalized. And what that really is doing is it's ensuring that we can take inputs from our ECC and our EMS system, and we can take inputs from our really remote systems, non-centralized systems, just distributed systems, and make sure that we have the next best available asset to come online as load changes. And so we think we got a really good program to move forward with. But again, it's going to be a combination of legacy assets that we're going to need to continue to build with these new distributed assets and ensuring that they work together.
Tom, before we wrap it up, any final thoughts from your perspective? Maybe something from your 30 plus years in the industry that you're seeing that others aren't really paying enough attention to right now?
Well, I can speak for what I'm seeing. A lot more on the grid edge, right? We're a phrase we're using here at Duke Energy is energy orchestration, and learning to take those assets that are out on the grid edge, whether it be controlling an appliance or perhaps shifting the load of an electric vehicle off the grid, and even utilizing some EV technology to power the home during outages and such. I think that's the future. Distributed energy is definitely here to stay, and we've got to figure out, like Jason was saying, to coordinate the use of that energy and maximize the efficiency of the whole system.
DistribuTech's a pretty good place to do that. You said energy orchestration. The conductor says you're now dismissed. Gentlemen, really appreciate you taking your time today and sharing some of what Duke's working on. I'm looking forward to seeing you out there at the end of March.
Sounds great. Nice to see you, Paul.